All right, good afternoon. Official travel to announce the Secretary General will be traveling to Ghana next week to attend the funeral of former Secretary General Kofi Annan, which is scheduled to take place on April 13th. On September 13th. Thank you for paying attention. Sorry. Over the weekend, the Deputy Secretary General, Mina Mohammed, was in Stockholm to participate in the opening of World Water Week. She said that around the world, growing demands for water, coupled with poor water governance, are having a broad and negative impact on economies and societies. It is clear that we need to do things differently, she said, adding that efficiently managing existing water resources is key for progress on this issue. Ms. Mohammed also stressed the need for better policies that take into account the risks arising from water-related disasters so resources can be allocated in a more equitable way. Her remarks have been put online. And on a related note, the UN Children's Fund and the World Health Organization today released the latest global assessment on drinking water, sanitation, and hygiene in schools, which establishes global, regional, and national level estimates of progress towards the Sustainable Development Target Goals 6 and 4 related to water and sanitation and education, respectively. The report also notes that globally in 2016, 19% of schools worldwide had not improved their drinking water services with the previous assessment, which means that nearly 570 million children worldwide had either limited or no drinking water services at their schools. Meanwhile, 23% of schools had not improved sanitation facilities, meaning that they relied on pits, hanging or bucket latrines, and had no sanitation facilities at all. This means that around 620 million children had either limited or no sanitation services at their schools. The full report is online. And I have a personnel announcement today. The Secretary General is appointing Mr. Satya Tripathi of India as Assistant Secretary General and head of the New York office of the UN Environment Program, or UNEP. He succeeds Elliot Harris of Trinidad and Tobago, to whom the Secretary General is grateful for his leadership and dedicated service during his tenure. Mr. Tripathi has since 2017 served as senior advisor on a 2030 agenda on sustainable development at UNEP, a development economist and lawyer with over 35 years of experience. He has worked for the UN since 1998 in Europe, Asia, and Africa. We welcome him, and more information is available online. And this morning here in the Security Council, the head of the UN mission in the DRC, in the Democratic Republic of the Congo, otherwise known as MONUSCO, Leila Zerougi, briefed the Security Council. She told members of the Council that tangible progress has been made on the ongoing electoral process. However, she said that despite this progress, the coming period before the election takes place on December 23rd will be marked by disputes and intense political consultations, and she encourages all parties to continue to engage in dialogue. Ms. Zerougi also has said the perceived credibility of the electoral process remains a key concern, and that could heighten tensions in the DRC. She added that more meaningful inclusion of women in the electoral process is a priority, as well as ensuring that there is no intimidation of political activists and human rights defenders. Ms. Zerougi also called for the lifting of the general ban on public demonstrations and upholding the freedom of expression and peaceful assembly, which are crucial to making meaningful progress as the holding of elections draws near. Her statement is available to you. On a related note, on the Democratic Republic of the Congo, our humanitarian colleagues tell us that the humanitarian situation remains worrying in Uvira territory in South Kivu, where over 14,000 people have been displaced following an attack by a coalition of Mai Mai militia on August 18th. Many people who were displaced were forced to flee again. In addition, earlier this month, some 3,900 people were reportedly displaced in southern Shabunda and some 3,200 people in the southeast of the province of Maniema. This due to clashes between armed groups and the armed forces. Since June, the UN and its partners have been assisting over 600,000 people in need, including internally displaced people and refugees from Burundi, about 28,000 of them in South Kivu. And also on the subject of refugees, over the weekend, the UNHCR said it is relieved that the remaining rescued people on board the Italian Coast Guard vessel Diciotti have been disembarked, and commends the countries and organizations that have shown solidarity by offering to take those who remain on board. UNHCR encouraged the establishment of predictable arrangements in the Mediterranean region for the disembarkation of people rescued at sea, and urged states to accelerate efforts to put such arrangements in place and address this type of situation. This year alone, more than 1,600 people have lost their lives attempting to reach European shores, despite the number of people attempting to cross being significantly reduced as compared to previous years. And as you will have seen, the UN Independent International Fact-Finding Mission on Myanmar, established by the Human Rights Council, issued a report today in which it called for the country's military leaders to be investigated for crimes committed in North Rakhine State, including genocide, crimes against humanity, and war crimes. The report is available online, and a fuller version containing detailed factual information and legal analysis will be presented to the Human Rights Council on September 18th. And today, the UN World Tourism Organization reported that international tourist arrival grew by 7% in 2017. That's the highest number since 2010. The World Tourism Organization says China continues to lead global outbound travel, having spent $258 billion on international tourism in 2017. This is almost one-fifth of the world's tourism spending in 2017, which stood at $1.3 trillion. And that's $94 billion more than in 2016. And when it comes to popularity, the number one destination was? France. There you go. And today we say thank you very much to our friends in Paraguay, as that member state has now paid its regular budget dues in full. Which brings us up to?
125, I'm ready.
It was 124, you're jumping the gun.
It was 124 before they paid, I thought. I looked it up.
Either I'm wrong or you're wrong. But
I don't know, the website said 124.
You tried, so that's okay. You get to play. Go ahead.
All right, thank you. Girls got a deadline.
Yeah.
Stéphane, the Myanmar report. The panel said the UN's quiet diplomacy had failed, and they recommended a comprehensive independent inquiry into the UN involvement in Myanmar since 2011 to see if everything possible was done to prevent or mitigate the unfolding crisis. So will there be an investigation? What are you doing from your end?
The report was just shared with us today. I think as far as Secretary General is concerned, this is a very important report that all bodies of the United Nations and the international community should give serious consideration to, as well as its recommendations. I think, as you know, the Secretary General has for a long time underscored the violations of human rights in Myanmar and has underscored the fact that these must be addressed and that accountability is essential for genuine reconciliation within all ethnic groups, as well as necessary regional security and stability. Go ahead.
So to follow that up on accountability, does the Secretary General agree with the recommendation that it should be referred to the International Criminal Court?
As I said, this is the report was just received. As you know, it's an independent report. We will, Secretary General, and will be giving it due considerations, and all other bodies of the United Nations should give it due consideration. As you know, the ICC referral, it does not go through the Secretary General.
Might he suggest tomorrow in his remarks to the Security Council something?
You will see what he will address, as you well said, he will address the Security Council in a previously scheduled open meeting on Myanmar tomorrow.
The Secretary General has indicated that there was ethnic cleansing in Myanmar against the Rohingyas. Does he go along with the findings of this investigative body from the Human Rights Council that this could constitute genocide?
The actual naming of a genocide is one, as far as the UN is concerned, needs to be done by an international judicial body. That is not to say that the Secretary General hasn't shied away from being very open as the way he sees the situation in northern Rakhine State. And I would encourage you to pay close attention to what he will say tomorrow. Yes, sir.
Stéphane, this meeting of the Secretary General with the Foreign Minister of Nicaragua, is the UN taken up any sort of mediation role in the crisis? And what's the message that the ESG is?
The Secretary General's message has been consistent, is that he stresses the need for politically inclusive solution to the crisis and a solution that leaves no one behind. Yeah.
If I can just follow up on the mediation aspect, the president of Nicaragua has asked the UN to take a role in that sense. Is there any progress?
When we have something to announce, we will. Yeah.
Also, a quick follow-up on Nicaragua. This meeting happens pretty much a couple of hours after fresh reports came out from Nicaragua on a new acts of repression against students who want a change on their government. So I wonder if this issue in particular of abuses against human rights was addressed on this meeting.
I think the meeting is going on or just completed, so I don't have any more details at this point.
On DRC, is there a date settled for a visit of Guterres?
No, there is no date settled. Stéphane.
Yes, on the case of the migrants and the last of the Chotti ship, the UN has, through Grandi, UNHCR, said practically that it's more, the Europe should take more responsibility and on this issue. But because it's months and months that we're going on always with the same thing, and Italy and Europe now are also on the verge. Italy even say that will drop its funding to Europe if this continues. Shouldn't be the Secretary General at this point be a voice to, sometimes you need the referee, where say, point finger, who is right, who is wrong, and to make sure that this is resolved also for the human rights and not being respected.
I think, with all due respect, I think anybody who has been listening to Antonio Guterres will know that he's had an extremely strong and vocal voice on the issue of refugees, the rights of refugees, the need for people to respect those rights, for them to be treated with humanity in accordance with established international law. And he has often pointed out that solidarity for refugees is shown overwhelmingly in the developing world, where we see where most refugees are housed. Just to take the Rohingyas in Bangladesh, the hundreds of thousands of people that have arrived in Bangladesh over the last year, and the generosity with which they've been welcomed by and taken in by the Bangladeshi authorities. There are a couple of things. One is obviously there are issues that need to be dealt with within the framework of the European Union. And then there's a bigger global framework on the Global Pact on Migration, which is something the UN and Ms. Arbour is working towards.
And then I have another question. I'm sorry, I wasn't here for some time. I was on vacation. Just want an update.
You don't watch the briefing while you're on vacation?
When I'm on vacation, no, I had to go back.
Okay.
But just if you can help me on the situation of Matthew Lee, because it actually happened, all these happen in a moment where, even in this country, we have attack on the press freedom and everything. Can you update us, or me only, if everybody, in what's happening, and if there is somehow, some way that can be, this situation can be fixed, because it doesn't look good in a situation where there are many leaders attacking.
To say that this is a freedom of the press issue is wrong. I personally work, and I've worked for years with some of the journalists that have written the most critical things about the United Nations, about the Secretary General, and we work with them in a collaborative and open manner, and we will continue to do so. Mr. Lee's the revocation of Mr. Lee's credentials has to do with behavior, has to do with him being found in the parking lot late at night when he shouldn't be, in places where he roaming the halls at times where he shouldn't be, with creating a hostile environment for journalists, for staff, and for diplomats. It has to do with behavior, and it has nothing to do with what is written. Yes, ma'am.
I have a question regarding the dialogue between Kosovo and Serbia. Is going to be this month any briefing of Security Council from UNMIC?
We'll have to check. I don't think there's anything programmed until the end of this month, and then we'll have to see if there's something scheduled for the month of September. We just have to look at the calendar.
It seems that there is agreement between President of Serbia and President of Kosovo, and final agreement, what they are saying, and they are asking for support. Does the UN have any information about agreements, and is the UN supporting the agreement?
The UN, in accordance with the Security Council resolution, is status neutral on the issue of the quote-unquote border discussions that are going on between Pristina and Belgrade. For us, it's critical that all sides remain committed to the dialogue, progress, and refrain from taking any steps that could hinder any dialogue in the progress. The European Union has been facilitating these discussions. They're in the League, where obviously our mission in Kosovo is following the discussion very closely. My understanding is that there'll be a meeting in Brussels in September, and we look forward to seeing what the outcome so we look forward to seeing what the outcome of that meeting is. Nizar.
Yeah, thanks, Stéphane. 2 massacres happened last week in Yemen, attacking children. 20 children were killed in Brahimi area near Hodeidah. After 30 were killed in Sada. Does the Secretary General call for an independent inquiry on that? Again, I've seen Mr. Wilcox.
Yes, and he has. He did when this was brought up during the briefings at the time.
How is he following? I mean, this
we continue to be in discussion with all the parties.
One more question. Today, there is a major escalation when Ansarullah declared that they attacked Dubai International Airport by a drone. Do you have any view or position?
No, I don't have any. I've seen the press reports as I was coming in today. I don't have any independent confirmation, but obviously, in principle, we condemn any attack on civilian infrastructure. But again, we're waiting. I'm waiting to get more information.
One more question. Did Mr. Griffith send his invitations to Geneva talks?
Yes, he did.
Are Ansarullah included in those invitations?
The invitations were sent out. We'll see what more. I'll come back to you, Masood. Yes, Masood.
Yeah. Stéphane, on this targeted killing of the Palestinians by the Israelis, as mentioned in the book, Rise and Kill First, that 23,000 Palestinians have been targeted since 1970, the book says that they have been deliberately targeted to get the Palestinians on the negotiating table. Do you have any comments on that?
I haven't seen the book.
That you haven't heard about the book, Rise and Kill First?
I have not. Yes.
Thank you, Stéphane. Does the UN or the Secretary General have anything to say about the fact that at least 3 Latin American leaders who are eligible to run for re-election have been imprisoned, and Lula in Brazil. I mean, this is something of a scandal. Now, Cristina Kirchner in Argentina, and Fernandez Kirchner, and Rafael Correa. This is judicial interference with the electoral process.
Listen, I'm not in a position to comment on those 3 cases. What is important is that the rule of law, as a matter of principle, be followed. Sorry, go ahead. Zach, go ahead. I'll come back to you. I'm going still for people who have not yet asked. Zach, go ahead.
Regarding Myanmar, the report seems to note that Aung San Suu Kyi was not able to, or did not use any of her any kind of moral authority or power to stem some of the problems that were committed by the military. Has the Secretary General had any dialogue with her at any point?
There was an exchange. There was dialogue with her a few months back. Nothing recently. Yes, Nizar.
Ansarullah today said that no invitations were sent to them.
As I was trying to say earlier, when I have an update on the invitations, I will share them with you.
Do you have an update?
I believe they were sent out.
Do you have an update on the humanitarian relief in Hodeidah, through Hodeidah and other areas?
Not today. Yes, sir.
Stéphane, there have been statements today from the legitimate government of Yemen and also from the coalition to the United Nations. The Yemeni government is saying that the United Nations, and I'm just quoting them here, United Nations reports became just an improved version of the Houthi reports, according to them. And that you've taken most of your information from the Yemeni, from the Houthi Ministry of Health, and base your reports on their reports. Colonel Turki al-Maliki today spoke in a press conference about a few hours ago, and he said that they are very surprised, some of the statement coming out emanating from this organization and the officials here. He also was wondering why there are no statements from the United Nations concerning the militia, the Houthi militias controlling containers and storage belonging to an international organization. I don't know which organization.
I think we, first of all, I'd say we stand by the impartiality of our reporting, whether it's on the humanitarian end or on the political track. Our only narrative is the one of the people of Yemen and trying to help the people of Yemen and trying to help them by ending the conflict that has been ongoing for far too long, which has created a humanitarian, a man-made humanitarian crisis in a place that was already suffering from humanitarian needs, and we will continue our work in that vein.
If I may just follow up. He also, Al-Maliki, Colonel Turki al-Maliki, was wondering why the insistence of having your offices of the humanitarian coordinator in Sana'a, in spite of the very ill treatment, and we saw that in UN reports of the Houthi government there, or authorities, I should say, of the workers, of the own workers, and
the location of the office is determined by the best possible place for us to do our work. Yes, Masood.
Thank you. Would you have?
He didn't comment on the treatment of the Houthis detaining workers of the UN offices, and
I think we have commented on what we need to comment to at the right time. Yes.
Would you have a comment on this particular question that I asked about targeted killing of the Palestinians?
We, as a matter of principle, we stand against extrajudicial executions anywhere they may happen. Thank you. Oh, sorry, one more.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Comment on the delayed verdict of the two Reuters journalists, or does he plan to mention that tomorrow in the speech to the Security Council?
We are continuing to call for the release of the Reuters journalists, and we urge the authorities to respect their rights to pursue freedom of expression and information. And we continue to work towards their release and to strengthen the protection of journalists, especially in this case, who are trying to report on human rights violations. Thank you.